everyone. Thanks for joining us today on our ClearStream RFID webinar. Today we're going to walk through getting set up with ClearStream and see how quickly and easily you can get up with fixed RFID readers and map them to pre-existing systems. My name's Howie Heckman. I'm one of the software engineers at PTS. And I'll kind of be giving you a live demonstration of how the ClearStream application works, show you how you can very quickly and easily hook up these fixed RFID readers and test sending RFID tags through these readers to a back-end database or Excel spreadsheet or even just a text file. So before I get started, I'll just talk a little bit about the application. What is ClearStream RFID? ClearStream RFID is a very easy-to-use fixed RFID mapping solution. It really, through a GUI, a simple, easy-to-use interface, allows you to map these fixed readers that you may have out across your network, and it kind of allows you to map as many as you'd like to a pre-existing database or back-end system. So through that easy-to-use interface, you can just select a source, which would be a fixed RFID reader, and then select the destination where those tags are going as that reader picks up the tags. So you can select anything from a Microsoft Access database, a SQL Server database, an Oracle database, or even just an Excel spreadsheet or a text file. So you can quickly hook the fixed RFID readers up to your destination, and every time those readers read a tag, based on how you have it configured, it'll send those tags over to the destination. You can capture that information. So what are the benefits of ClearStream RFID? Again, there's no programming involved here. It's just a simple-to-use GUI. You can just pick your source, pick the destination of where that information is going, and really in just a couple of minutes hook up these fixed RFID readers to a back-end database. There's also a lot of features in how these readers are reading tags and when they're reading tags. So through that interface, you can kind of define when the reader is triggered. Maybe it triggers on a light sensor so that it'll start up once somebody walks through a portal. It'll start reading tags and only read for that amount of time. Maybe you can want to set it up to do like a stockroom inventory. In that case, you may want to run it once a day. So it'll just automatically power up the readers, read all of the information at the location, and send that information over to your selected, again, ODBC database, Excel, or just a text file. So with that, I'll jump into a little bit of the demonstration of the application. I'm going to hop out of the PowerPoint here. And before I get started, I'll just like to mention that you can download or request a download for a trial of ClearStream from our ClearStreamRFID.com website. If you go there and take a look, you can request a free trial. You can download, and everything that I show you today, you can try it on your side in a trial mode. And the trial mode just limits you to the amount of time that you can use the application, but you'll be able to perform all of the functions that I show you today using just this trial. So you can get up and running pretty quickly without purchasing any of the software, or if you're using a trial, or the hardware. Okay? So with that, I'll jump into the ClearStream application. So after you download ClearStream, just go ahead and run the installer. It'll install to your PC. And then when you open up the application, this is the screen you'll be presented with. And this is kind of just the start screen of ClearStream. And it's really set up right away to configure one reader to one destination. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see the source. And the source is always going to be a fixed RFID reader. And then the destination will be something like the ODBC database table, maybe a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, or a text file. So you're just picking the source, which will be one of your fixed readers, and then where the tag information is going. Now, one thing we provide with the installer I'd just like to mention is a pre-configured Microsoft Access database. And this is it here. I just opened it up, and you can see it really just has a table for an RFID tag list. And you can really quickly, if you don't have anything in place already, use this database to send your tag information. So kind of to test how the RFID reader reads the tags and see that information getting sent to this Access database. So you can see right here it has one table called RFID tag list, and right now it has no tags in the table. And I'm going to go ahead and hook up a fixed reader to this table so you can see this table being populated with the tags that are sent over from the reader. Okay, so that's provided with the installer. It'll also be available in this destination side when you're configuring your ClearStream application. Okay, so the first thing I want to do now is actually select the source. And again, that's going to be a fixed RFID reader, so I'll pick RFID from this type dropdown. When I do that, you'll be presented with the fixed RFID selector form here. This is where you're just picking which reader you want to hook up to. Now, on your network, you may have many readers. So here's just defining which one you want to use for this particular setup here. If you wanted to add additional readers, you'd hit this plus sign here and configure the same thing but with a different source. So in my case here, I'm going to go ahead and hook up to a Motorola reader that we have on our network. But just to note, we do have many manufacturers in ClearStream 2.0 that you can hook up to. You can hook up to Alien fixed readers, Impinj, Intermec, or even ThingMagic fixed readers. So you have those different options here for which type you'd like to select. I'm going to, for today, go ahead and select a Motorola reader. When I do that, the only thing I really need to configure is the IP address of where that reader is on my network. And in my case, it's 4.125. And if I do that, it'll go ahead and try to communicate with the reader. If it does, it'll pull up the reader ID. So you can see here I made a successful connection to this reader, and now I have the reader ID. One other option to make this even simpler for our users, there's this search or magnifying glass button here to the right of the reader. You can go ahead and select this, and this will actually search across your network for any readers that you have plugged in. So let's just say you had a fixed RFID reader that you had still sitting in a box and you wanted to hook it up with ClearStream. You would just unpackage the fixed RFID reader, plug it into your network just as you would a new PC. That'll typically just get assigned an IP address, which you may not know what that is. So you can use this form here on your PC that has ClearStream installed to start a search across the network. That'll list all of the fixed RFID readers that it finds in this Find Results box, and you just pick the one you'd like and hit Select. And then that'll pre-fill out the form, the reader selector form here with that information. So it's a really easy-to-use way of just searching for your fixed RFID reader, selects the one that you'd like to use, and then populate and fill out the form here. So if you have many fixed RFID readers, you'll see each one of them pop up in that Select Readers, or Find Readers dialog, and you can pick the one you'd like to use for that case. Okay, so on my left-hand side now I have a fixed reader selected. I have it, it's already found that reader, it's found the reader ID. On the right-hand side now I just want to select where the tags are going when a tag is picked up by this fixed reader. So in this case I'm going to actually go to that sample database. So I'm going to select ODBC, and ODBC is for any database that you'd like to map to. It could be, again, SQL Server, Oracle, or the Microsoft Access sample that we provide with the application. So here you'll see in the ODBC data source, it's currently configured to go to the ClearStream RFID sample. This you'll see in this drop-down after you install the application. But if you did have a different database you'd like to go to, you can go ahead and select it from this list here. So this list will be populated with all of the databases that you have installed on this PC here. And you would just pick the one you'd like to go to. So if it was something like a SQL Server table, you could select that SQL Server database, you could select that here. After selecting the database, if you need to, if it's SQL Server, Oracle, something like that, you would enter some of the login information here so that you can connect to that database. After you do that, you'll then see the tables that are in that database. Now the tables could also be something like a query or a view, so you can map to a query or view or a table in the database. You can also map to stored procedures. So if you need to do additional logic with the tags when they're being posted to the database, you could select that here as well. For this sample here, I'm just going to pick RFID tag list, since I want to use the RFID tag list that comes with the sample database of ClearStream. After you do that, the last thing you really need to configure to get anything up and running are the field settings. So down below you have the field settings between the fixed RFID reader on the left-hand side and the database table on the right-hand side. Now what this means is these fields on the left-hand side, they're the fields of information that the fixed reader collects for each tag that is read. So the first field will be the tag ID, or the EPC value. So that's the unique identifier for the tag. It also will report the antenna, that the tag was read on. So many of these readers can have 4 or 8 antennas, or even more in some cases. The antenna will be reported with the tag information. So just imagine a setup where maybe you have one antenna over an inbound door and another antenna over an outbound door. That information will be reported with the tag to the database so that you know that tag was going out of the stockroom, say, or into the stockroom based on which antenna had read the tag. You also can report the signal strength, usually about this will report maybe the distance that the tag is away from the antenna. You'll also get a date timestamp along with the tag read. So that'll tell you when the tag was read from that reader. You get the reader name. The reader name is similar to the antenna, but it's a unique value you can assign to the reader, so you know which reader read that tag. So in my case here, you can see I have it currently set to the default reader 1. But if I wanted to change this to something a little bit more descriptive, I could say maybe it's stockroom 100. And now every time a tag is picked up from this reader that I'm currently powering up here, along with the tag information, I'll get the stockroom 100 value. So I'll know in my database when that tag was read that that tag is in stockroom 100. Okay. The last field you have here is the tag event. This is only supported on certain readers, Motorola being one of them, that will send the description of what happened to the tag to your destination. And the what happened descriptions there are whether or not the tag was read for the first time by that reader, or whether the tag had just left the field of view of the reader. So that's useful for things like you want to keep track of how long a tag was at a particular location. You'll get an event reported to your destination that describes, okay, the tag was just read into stockroom 100 at 8 o'clock, and then it left the field of view of that antenna at 10 o'clock, so I know that it was there for 2 hours in that stockroom. So that's what the tag event is for. So really with the field mappings here, you want to just marry up the fields of information that you'd like to collect from the reader to the field inside of your destination database table. So in my case, I don't want to map to this primary key ID field, so I'm going to remove that. And now you can see that I have the tag ID field is mapped to tag ID, antenna to antenna, and so on. So I have these kind of one-to-one. That's typically what you want to do. And you're just really picking the fields that you'd like to map to this destination. Okay? So pretty much at this point, I have everything configured. I could go ahead and start this sync up and start reading tags by just clicking on the start-stop form and hitting the start button. So I'm going to go ahead and do that just for a second so you can see this running. So once this runs, now this reader is actively reading tags. And I have a number of tags sitting underneath this reader, or underneath the antenna, and it's picking up those tags and sending them to the destination. So I can view the destination by going to my data viewer here. Now previously you saw that it had 0, but if I hit refresh, now you can see I just read 357 tags into my destination access table. So here, and you can also see the reader name, stockroom 100. So if I go to my access database, you'll see that same thing. If I go ahead and refresh this database table, this is where the tags are actually stored. And now you can see that all of those tags that I just read from that antenna have been posted to this destination database table. And you can see it includes the fields of information that I mapped through the field mappings. So I had tag, antenna, the signal strength, date, time, and reader name. And in the access table right now, I see it, the tag ID, the antenna name, signal strength, a date timestamp, which I currently have my date time set a little off here, and then the reader name, which is posted with that tag. So you can see, if you wanted to look up where a certain item is, you could look up this tag ID here. You can see that it was read by, in my case, I left a previous antenna name, but loading dock A, and it was read in stockroom 100. So you know now where this item is. It's located in stockroom 100, and it was last scanned there at this particular time. This loading dock A, that's an antenna name that's provided, or that's settable within ClearStream. I'll go into actually how you can change that so you can see that as well. So what I'll do is I'll delete all my tags again before I run this. So I'm going to remove and clear out my access database. So now my access database is back to the default here with no tags. I'm going to go back to ClearStream. And that was a pretty simple sample. I just started reading tags from the source, this Motorola fixed RFID reader, and I started sending them to the destination. And the way I was sending them to the destination was always an append. So this means every time a tag is read and sent to the destination, go ahead and just append it as a new tag. So it's useful if you always want to, every time you read, you just want to append it to the bottom of the database table and see where that tag was last scanned. The other options you have here is you can overwrite the destination. So that's useful for like a stockroom. If every time that scanner ran, maybe you had it running at 8 in the morning, maybe for just like 10 minutes to take a stockroom inventory, you would do an overwrite in that case. And when you do an overwrite, it would replace the contents of that table with the new tag list that was read at 8 in the morning. So now you could go ahead and load that database table, and you'd see everything available there, and you'd know up to date as of 8 o'clock this was everything in that location. You could also do an update existing or an update existing append if not found. And what that does is every time a tag is posted, say, to this access database, ClearStream is going to look if that tag exists first before it posts it to the database. And if it does exist, it'll update it with the new information. So let's just say, for instance, that you had a tag ID 100. It was read on reader name stockroom 100. Well, later that day, that tag moves to stockroom 200. Well, the next time it's read by another reader, it'll look for that tag ID in the database table, and it'll find it, and it'll update it with the new stockroom information, which would be stockroom 200. So now when you look at that, you'll see that there's only one row in the database for that tag 100, and you'll see then in the reader name where it is. And so you'll see the last place it was scanned, and you'll know that's the last location this item was. So let's go over to stockroom 200 to get that item. So those are the different post types you have there. On the source side, you have control over when the reader is actually actively reading tags. To do that, you can open up the advanced options here for the reader. Now this, again, gives you control of when the reader is reading, maybe antenna names and antenna power, things like that. The first option is the scan mode. I currently have this set for continuous, but you can also do a timed scan. And this is where you can define, okay, I only want this to run maybe once a day for a couple of minutes, once a day for even a couple seconds. But you have control over that. It'll only read for a limited amount of time. It's not constantly scanning for tags. You can also set up a daily scan so that you only have it running during certain days, maybe between a certain time frame. So you can limit the amount of time that that reader is actively scanning for tags. The last option you have here for the triggering the scans is a GPI trigger. This stands for General Purpose Input Trigger. On most readers, there are input ports on the hardware, on the reader itself. And you can hook up things like a light sensor or just a button or a motion detector or something like that. And you can define through the GPI trigger that if this port is tripped, so usually there's one or two ports, sometimes more, input ports. Let's say, for instance, if port 1 was tripped, so the motion sensor went off on port 1, you can then have it scan for a certain number of seconds. And this will allow you to do something like if you have a portal set up and you want to keep track as items move through that portal, but you don't want the scanner always scanning, you can make it so that the motion detector detects something going through the portal, and then it powers up the reader for some certain number of seconds to read everything going through that portal. So it's another useful feature so that if you don't want to have the reader constantly scanning for tags, you can limit it through this GPI trigger here. Let's go back to continuous. Some other options you have here, the antennas. This is where you can configure the antenna information on the reader. Probably the most important thing here, or could be for the sample today, is the name of the antenna. So for my sample here, I had stockroom 1. Well, I'm going to change maybe the antennas to be shelf 1 and shelf 2. So what this does is this reports, this is a description of the antenna name that's reported to the destination every time a tag is read. So now I switched to shelf 1 and shelf 2. If you had additional antennas, maybe additional shelves, you could put that description here as well in the name. I only have 2 antennas hooked up. Actually, I think I have 1 hooked up to this reader currently. But you would go ahead and give them descriptive names for the antenna, so that when you go over to your destination, you can see exactly which shelf that tag was read on. You can see that information posted along with the tag. So not only do you know which stockroom it's in, but you also know what shelf it's on. You can also control the read strength of the reader. Max power here is 30 dBm. You can also reduce this if you want a shorter read range, so you can almost make the reader act as like a contact type reader. You would basically have to put the item in front of the antenna, and directly in front of the antenna to pick up that read. And that's useful if you want to reduce the read range, so you're not overlapping different shelves or different stock rooms or something like that. You can play with the power of the antenna so that you're only reading in a particular area that you want to. The tag session just defines which session it's currently used. That can be useful for limiting the amount of times the tag reports itself to the reader. I won't go into too much detail there, but it's useful if you wanted to go to like a session 2 or a session 3 on the tag. The tag will not report itself constantly to the reader if it's in the field of view of the reader constantly. It won't be constantly sending back that information to the reader. Another interesting feature here on these readers, you have output ports. So just like the inputs, you also have output ports, and you can power up those output ports depending on certain events that happen within ClearStream. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to power up a buzzer when a tag is read by the reader, or maybe even a light. You can configure that here so that the certain ports on the reader will be powered up based on the event that happens. Different events that can happen are a tag is posted to the destination, maybe a tag is not posted to the destination, maybe a tag is read by the reader. So you have control over different events that are happening while ClearStream is running, and then based on those events, you can power up the reader. So one of the more common ones is like a security type situation where a tag that goes past that antenna that's not supposed to go past that antenna, you could power up a buzzer so that it would be similar like to a retail store in the security by the doorways. It'll power up some kind of audible alert saying, hey, this tag's not supposed to go through the reader. The last tab you have here, device-specific settings. This is where you can configure the tag reporting, like I mentioned before. So you can, just like you can add a description for the reader as well as the antenna, you can also give a descriptive value here for what happened to that tag. So here you can see I did have a sample for badge is at a conference table or badge left a conference table. So these are the two events that could happen. A new tag comes into range of the antenna, or a tag goes out of range of the antenna, and then this will keep track of what happened to it. And in this case, you can see here, it was keeping track of how long a tag was at a conference table. So when that badge was at the conference table, it would report it when it first showed up, and then it would report the tag when it left the conference table. So you can keep track of when those events occur and get a description in your database of exactly what happened to that tag. Again, this tag, these descriptions here are reported to the destination every time a tag is read if you're using them. So if you have them mapped, so you can see the tag event field to the tag event field. Okay, so those are kind of a lot of the control over what you have for the reader. You can also set up filtering for the tags that are read by the reader. To do that, you would go into the Options tab here. So if you only wanted to read tags maybe that start with a certain prefix, you don't want to pick up anything other than those, you can set up tag filtering using this Options tab. That's also useful for that signal strength, and that's one of the reasons this is reported with the tag. If you wanted to filter based on signal strength, so if a tag that was picked up is very weak, you may not want to report that to the destination, kind of just expecting that that's not really at that location. You can set up tag filtering based on that signal strength. So you're only getting items that were definitely close to that reader and had a strong read or signal strength when that tag was read. Okay, so I'll go ahead and maybe just start this up one more time so you can see my new antenna name. So again, I changed the antenna name to Shelf 1 and Shelf 2. If I go back to the start-stop form after I configured all of this, I would just go ahead and click Start. It's going to power up the reader again, start reading tags into our destination. Again, I have it in continuous mode, so that's why you see all of the tags that are being read are being sent to the destination. I can go ahead and stop the read, and if I go back over to Microsoft Access, you'll see when I refresh this that now I have all of these tags that were read on Shelf 1, because I think I have one antenna hooked up to this. Should have hooked up the second one for you guys. But you can see now all of these tags, so if I wanted to look up this particular item, I can see, hey, it's in Stockroom 100 on Shelf 1. So it's descriptive as to where the last place that tag was read by this fixed RFID reader, and that's posted to the database. Okay. The last thing I'd like to mention is that I configured today one fixed RFID reader, If you wanted to add additional readers to your system, again, you just hit this plus sign. And when you do that, you'll see a new sync process added to the list. And all you would do is go ahead and configure now another fixed RFID reader. So you would do the same configuration. So you'd go ahead and say, okay, my source is going to be fixed RFID. I'll pick the manufacturer that I'd like to use, so you can mix and match manufacturers. And then you can pick the destination where those tags are going, and it could be the same database table, it could be a different database table, or Excel spreadsheet or text file. And then as this reader is powered up, that information is sent to the destination along with new information. So now I would have a second RFID reader that maybe I call this one Stockroom 200. I would go ahead and configure this just as I did the other sync process. And then when I go to the start-stop, I would just hit start here, and now this is going to start up both readers. So you'll see that both readers now will have activity, and you'll be keeping track of the items that are at both locations due to the different readers in your system here set up and sending those tags to your database table. And again, that could be the same database table, so that when a user actually is looking for that item, you could go ahead and look for that item through your database table, and you could see, hey, okay, this time it was read at Stockroom 200, so I know that item is at that location. We offer ClearStream RFID trial kits, and we have a limited number of these trial kits available, but if you'd like to reach out to your rep here at PTS or one of our vendors to see if you can get a ClearStream RFID trial, we do have these trials that are packaged with everything that you need to get started with ClearStream. They come with a fixed RFID reader, they come with 2 antennas, they also come with even sample tags so that you can kind of use those sample tags if you don't have any in place already to see how everything works. It also comes with the trial of the ClearStream software so that you can download the trial, install that to your PC, and then begin testing this fixed RFID reader. So I did want to mention that we do have a limited number of the ClearStream RFID kits available, so if you guys would like to trial the ClearStream system, reach out to us or one of our vendors to see if you can get that trial set up. So with that, I guess I appreciate everyone hopping on the webinar. We look forward to seeing you all again in the future, and we thank you again for joining us. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.